Hello and welcome to another episode of Empty the Playbook. More exciting free agency news this week, lots to catch up on. But before we get stuck into the nitty gritty of it, let's check in with the boys. So, Shapland, what's going on?
Yeah, not a lot. I know I say that every week, and you know what? I'm getting tired of you asking how I'm doing because you always go to Thornsey, and he's got exciting stories like his near-death experience with a fork, and his interruption of a funeral. So I wish I could lead as an exciting life as Thornsey does in lockdown, but I don't. So you know what, Dan? How's your week been?
It's a very good question. Do you know what, mate? My week's been very good, actually. Just getting back a bit of normality. It's been 100 miles an hour, but it's good. Just getting back to work in my actual workplace as opposed to online is quite nice. And free agency keeping me sane. The rugby breaking my heart. I'm
seeing Wales lose out on a Grand Slam.
I've been thinking about this all weekend. I'm trying to make myself feel better, obviously, but I was saying that I'd rather be in the position where we lost it in the final minute than have lost 4 games and not be in contention at all. And Super Saturday mean nothing to me. Whereas the boys could have won it. Got stuff didn't go our way. I mean, our luck probably balanced out really from the rest of the tournament. So in reality, well, I say in reality, I've probably just cursed it now, so I'm going to knock on wood while I say this. But hopefully we've still won the tournament, even if we're not going to got a Grand Slam. But basically, Shaps, to answer your question, my week is either work or sport. That's how I live my life. So I'm here to talk about American football. So I'd like to avoid the rugby now if I can, please.
I'll allow it.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you were just as boring as ever. Thornsey, how are you?
I haven't really got any exciting stories as such this week. I've been waking up early, not because I set an alarm early, just because my blinds are broken, so the sunlight streams in at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I had a really bad day today because all my boxes are dirty. Just because I'm lazy and I can't be asked to wash them. So I have like an emergency pair of boxers which are too small. So just the whole day I've had the biggest wedgie. And it's been so annoying because you get so self-conscious because it's like, can people see it? Can they not? And it's just very uncomfortable, full stop. So yeah, that's been my week and day, but I had clean boxes for the other 6 days.
I'm glad you added that little bit at the end. I'm excited for the Ed Thorns book to come out, The Logistics of a Wedgie. It's got to be
surprised you didn't. Were you down to Christmas socks as well, or are you still surviving on socks?
No, I'm good with socks. I tend to wear socks like for multiple days, whereas boxes are like one day and then they're tossed. Except the emergency pair, obviously, they're more durable.
For an emergency, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I have another pair, but the waistband's broken, so I sort of hopefully, don't get down to them.
And I think all of our viewers have just turned off.
No, if anything, we've just gained some. Talking about the ins and outs of Thornsey's underwear drawer.
For sale on the Instagram later on, giveaway.
Giveaway. I love it. Why not?
Maybe this is going to be the start.
With no waistband.
This is going to be the start of a new business. Ed Dawn's emergency boxes.
You could get some empty the playbook like merch going, but only like underwear, and you've just got the fire and the referee going around the boxes.
It's underwear, but it's only sold. So if you buy a medium, we give you an extra small, so it's giving you a wedgie the whole time as well.
Yeah, sizes are all wrong.
We could do like all black running gear as well.
What's the boxes shine?
No, so you look fine when you go to a funeral.
Tying multiple episodes together there, I love it.
Reinforced socks to protect from falling forks. You know that there's a whole line there somewhere.
Boys, I think we've cracked it here. I think we found the missing link from the show. Right, we'll leave the sales pitch for another time. But first things first, as we do now on empty the playbook, let's get into the news. So this week, as I have dubbed it, has been the week of the wide receiver. Lots and lots and lots of receivers finding either their new home, some staying home for a cheeky bit less money, which was an interesting move. Some long-term receivers going to new places, which is really, really exciting. And I've just written down some of the kind of notable ones that I think are really key to next season and are really exciting. So we got Will Fuller going to Miami. Really nice addition there. I think that'll be really, really interesting to see how they use him. Kenny Golladay to the Giants. Dream fit for me. I think that's really nice. And I think that's something that's going to help Daniel Jones really, really improve this season. So I really, really like that fit. Juju back to Pittsburgh on a 1-year deal. I also really like that. And I rate not going to, although, Juju is a bit of Marmite. You either love him, you hate him, depending on who you are. I'm sure Shaplin's got some things to say on that. We'll get to in a minute.
Corvette.
Yeah, nice. But I really like the fact that he turned down division rivals. I really respect that, even though the team had obviously already let him go or let him hit free agency. It might not be a case if they let him go, but it might have been a case that they didn't have the cap originally and said to him all along, like, we want you back, but we can only offer you this amount of money. I just really like that. I think staying away from division rivals is a really, really cool move. Other ones, AJ Green going to Arizona, where a place where they don't kind of have to rely on him. I think the Bengals have been kind of like fingers crossed and hoping and praying that AJ Green's going to come back and be the dominant receiver that he was before. Now he goes to a place where they've already got D-Hop, who's the number one guy, and AJ Green can, get on with his game, and hopefully that'll open him up, having D-Hop on the other side. So I really like that move. A move that I will get into later on, Emmanuel Sanders to Buffalo. Really like that too. And Curtis Samuel going to the football team. Yeah, going back to being the same receiving core as his college roommate, Terry McLaurin. He's a really cool fit, and I think they'll do some exciting things with Curtis Samuel. One that was announced today, as of day recording, Deshaun Jackson going to the Rams. I think that's a really nice move to add to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, a downfield threat, depending on if he's still got that speed coming in this season. But that's pretty cool as well. So I kind of listed that off as it went on, but it just proves how many exciting receiver deals there's been this week, and that's why I dubbed it the week of the wideout. I think is more exciting than the week of the wide receiver. But yeah, so that was kind of the key headline, or one of the key headlines this week. Trent Williams re-signing with the 49ers for the obscene contract that he did. I know that's more your area, Shaps, but
can I throw in my thing? I think it was PFF that announced it, but Trent Williams doing the pettiest thing I've ever seen, which is to become the highest paid offensive tackle in history. I believe he took 10 grand more than Bakhtiari got paid just so he could be the highest paid ever. And I love the pettiness in that. That's beautiful.
Oh yeah, definitely. I really rate it, and I think as well. Was it a 6-year contract he signed, boys? 6. Yeah, at 33.
Yes, yeah. I think it's more of a sort of you will retire here deal. Like I think it's a lot of unguaranteed cash that sort of cashes in as a rolling option and stuff that the team can pick up. So it's more of a symbolic deal, I think. But it's nice to see him get the recognition and respect. I know he's already got it, but it's nice to see them going, we know you're old, but be old with us.
Yeah. Do you know what I was kind of going to add to that as well, is the fact that, some people might see that as 6 years. Like, my guy's 33 and you're going to pay him until he's 39. Like, I legit think he could probably play until he's 39. I don't think it's a case of like, these contracts that seem to be the thing this year with like void years. If you play a year or 2 years, the rest is like void and you just get whatever guaranteed money or whatever. I legit think he might play out that contract. Injuries, hopefully he doesn't get injured, obviously, because he's a fantastic talent, and especially at tackle. Andrew Whitworth's shown that you can still play at a fantastic level approaching your 40s. So I like it. I think that's a really important. Left tackle is so important to tie down, as we've talked about in previous podcasts. So that's Trent Williams. Other quick kind of notable moves before I kind of open the floor up to any takes that you guys want to chuck in. Patrick Peterson moving on and going to Minnesota. I think that could be a really nice move. Tutor in some young corners in that secondary for the Vikings is hopefully a really nice move, and Patrick Peterson can still play. So I really like it. And also my boy Hassan Reddick that I was hoping would stay at Arizona with every other guy in the league has gone to Carolina. And that's a move that I really like. And that's a front that I think looks quite cool now with him and Brian Burns, Derek Brown. So, yeah, I think that's really, really exciting. And, takes on free agency moves, gentlemen. Any things that really crop up that you want to share?
Well, firstly, as an AFC North fan, I've got to talk about Juju.
I knew you couldn't resist. I started talking about that about 15 minutes ago now.
Yeah, but I don't like Juju. He's like you said, he's Marmite. You love him or you hate him. I respect I think he's a good player, but he's not someone I'd want on my team or in my locker room. So you know what? I'm kind of glad that he's back. Actually, I'm not kind of glad that he's back in Pittsburgh because he keeps really like even with all the Browns chat that he did, he still has all his best games against the Browns. It seems like I don't think he's got under 100 receiving yards in the 3 games last year he played against us. But anyway, like I don't think he's someone I want in my locker room, but I do kind of agree with what he did. I would, even though it's Baltimore and I'd like to see him go to Baltimore just to spite Pittsburgh, but I do agree with you. I don't like seeing players go to division rivals. And he turned down, was it the Chiefs he turned down as well, wasn't it? Which is a Super Bowl, which is obviously a Super Bowl ready team that's looking like they're going to go to the Super Bowl most years for the foreseeable future. I mean, as you do when you've got potential. Well, I mean, yeah, well, it's one of those things you'll have to see. But I like the move as a player for him staying in Pittsburgh, but I don't like him as a player. I would also like to give him credit where credit's due. He's a great run blocking receiver as they come, which a lot of receivers aren't, as receivers don't like blocking. I'm looking at you, Thornsey. Just for a little bit of context, I was a running back and Thornsey was a receiver in our offense that we played in. And he made most of the big plays, but he also didn't block that much. No offense.
If they get to the point where my guy's tackling them, they've done a good enough job.
But if I get to the point where your guy's tackling me, I'm like, I could have got an extra 30 yards. It's last man.
Big for you, isn't it?
Maybe if I actually had some sort of speed, I'd be able to run away from them. But Anyway, getting off topic. Yeah, that's my takes. Basically, I think Juju's a good move for the player. Yeah, and I think his run blocking with Pittsburgh trying to really look to reinvigorate that run game a bit. I hope. Then he's a key piece, that an underrated piece of that run game that could come back, and is something they really need to make a comeback. So I think he'd have been desperately missed if they didn't get in another run blocking receiver like him. Not to discredit his passing work.
Yeah, Juju's a great pick. I think he's a really interesting case because it's like it shows players aren't just willing to go for the money and all the success. That loyalty still exists in the league, which is it's like food for the soul. Like it feels nice. Another guy I don't think you mentioned, but I may have missed it, was Carl Fuller going to the Broncos. I think that's a really good pickup. You know, he's I think 2 years removed from being an All-Pro, and he joins Ronald Darby on this revamped secondary, and he's a stud. Like he has been for the last 2 or 3 years, and he's going to be really good there. And the other thing is like the 1-year deals. It's so exciting. Like there's so many good players signing 1-year contracts because of the salary cap and because of all these other issues, and it's like next year we're going to see all the free agents that were meant to come, plus all these guys that have signed 1-year deals, plus there's so much more money available. So yeah, I think it's good having something exciting to like look forward to this year. But if you wait till next year, it's like a whole year of like building up and gradually building to this, and like news columns being like who's going where and these guys are available too. And I think it's really exciting to like. I know it's like we've just had free agency and it's a bit geeky to be looking forward to the next free agency already, but I think in this case it's justified.
Yeah, and you're talking about this the money that's going to be popping around next year and such. And I think it's important to note as well, while in the news segment, obviously there was the record TV deal signed by the NFL this week, which is obviously going to have a lot of cap implications because of the way the salary cap works, being a share of the league revenue. So it's going to be interesting to see how the finances will trickle down.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, a funny story I thought from this week was the Michael Brockers trade to the Lions. It might have been last week, but anyway, after they traded for Stafford, he obviously came out and said, yeah, Stafford's like a huge level up from Jared Goff. I think, yeah, literally those were his words. And now he's obviously been traded to Detroit, where he's playing with Jared Goff again. So he's had to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
No.
I wasn't too sure. And another cool thing today, I don't know if you saw, was the Raiders signed Andre James, their backup center, to a 3-year extension. I think it's like interesting because it like gives context to the Rodney Hudson move that we were so puzzled by, and allegedly Gruden and Mayock are like very high on this kid, and they think he could easily take over for Hudson. So I think that's like interesting to like a nice bit of context.
So obviously, I think it's important as well. We talk about there's been a lot of news as well. I know Thornsey, you've done your research into this, but there's been a lot of news surrounding Deshaun Watson and the allegations in the media, and obviously that has a lot of implications because it's serious allegations and stuff that we feel like we sort of we feel obligated to talk about because of it's the news, and it's the sort of the unwanted reality of the NFL, really, that this is the sort of thing that we do have to talk about sometimes because it's the case of it's happening. Or yeah, so I'll let you, Thornsey, take the lead on that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to talk about the news and not talk about Watson obviously dominating the discourse, and we spoke about it in the week, and we're all sort of like, we want to keep the show lighthearted and we want to have jokes and tell stories about whatever we tell stories about and all these funny little anecdotes, but I think the NFL has a real dark side. When you look back at the last 10 years or so, and you talk about guys like Ben Roethlisberger and Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt, and the way that what they've done has sort of been overshadowed by how good they are as a player. And, you know, firstly, when you talk about Watson, like, he's a phenomenal football player. Like, there's no two ways about it. Like, at the most important position, like, he is a supreme talent. But for the last, like, 5 years, I think the NFL has just been way too soft on these sorts of issues. So obviously, Watson has been accused by, I think, 12 women now of sexual assault.
Yeah,
and there's
12.
apparently, 12. And apparently there's up to 22 women that are going to come forward. And all the stories are the same sort of thing, like masseuses and massage therapists that he's met up with, and he's, you know, I'm not going to go into the details, but there's plenty of stories out there if you want to go look up the details for yourselves. Like, is pretty horrible, and it's really disturbing as well, because I don't know about you two, but I've never had any sort of problems with like friends or family or anything have had that sort of issue, or that they've said about. But I was lying in bed the other day reading an article about it, and it's like, imagine if that's your sister or your girlfriend or your wife or your mum or something like that, and it's like, damn, like this is really like, it's so messed up, and it's so messed up because Watson is a guy that personally I've always thought was like an upstanding character, and the guy that's like a very high moral fiber, and he's not someone that's going to do anything like this. But then this news just comes out of nowhere. And I think that this is like a perfect opportunity for the NFL to just come down and say, look, like, we don't care how talented you are. We don't care how rich you are. We don't care what other teams are saying. They're still going to trade for you or pick you up or bail you out or whatever. You know, this is a chance to say, we're not going to tolerate this. We don't care what you like or anything. And, you know, this sort of scenario can set a very, very dangerous precedent for young players to say, if you're good enough, we don't care like what you do. We don't care if you go out and do anything, like, because we're going to bail you out. And I think that's dangerous because it shows young players to act like that. And I think it's dangerous because it stops people that have survived these sorts of incidents coming out and being like, yeah, that happened to me, or coming out and speaking out, because it seems like it's not going to go anywhere. Like, there are people out there who are big Deshaun Watson fans, and they're going to say, well, yeah, they're obviously just making it up because he wouldn't do that. They're obviously going to side with, they just side with the athlete because they assume that he's of this upstanding character, and that's really like damaging. Like, if you think how emotionally vulnerable someone would have to be after this sort of event, and then to come out and just disregard them as being a liar or not telling the truth or just seeking money, it's like, it really sets a horrible precedent. And I think this is where it's difficult though, because I don't think Watson should be forever kicked out of the NFL or forever just banished to never play football ever again, because I think, and this is like my opinion, obviously it's people will have different takes on this sort of thing, but I think he has to authentically show how he's changed. You know, Tyreek Hill was accused of domestic assault like 2 years ago, and he's come back in the league and he's stayed pretty quiet about what he's doing in the background. Like, he hasn't really spoken about this, about how he's changed, about what he's doing to help other people that suffer with this sort of thing. And I think if Watson can come out, serve his punishment, which will, you know, hopefully be severe, and then come and say, look, you know, I was struggling, I was doing this, it's really a sickness, I'm doing this to get over it, I'm reaching out to people to help. That's like what they have to do. But then, with that being said, I'm probably going to contradict myself, but in like 2 years' time, if Watson does all of that, or 3 years' time, or 4 years' time, or 5 years' time, we're going to look back, and if Watson is still in the league and he's, you know, paid the price, people just forget. And it's like, oh, you know, they don't even think about Watson as doing this. It's like Tyreek Hill goes to the Super Bowl back-to-back years and no one really talks about domestic abuse, which they should. Like, it should always sort of be there with his name. So I think that's something that, I mean, I say, like, as members of the media, like, we're like big time players, but I think as people that have a platform, however small, to talk about the NFL, this is something that we need to like stay focused on, and we can't just forget in like 6 months' time if Watson, this all sort of goes away and they pay a settlement and whatever. We should just forget and immediately, you know, go back to talking about Watson being this generational talent. I think we need to, you know, never like forget the fact that he's done this sort of thing. So yeah, so I know I like waffled a bit, but
no, yeah. You raised some really good points, Thorns, and I couldn't agree more that, like, however big or small your platform is, I think the fact that we're three guys having a conversation about it and making people aware, whoever may be listening, that, you know, we're open to have these conversations about these things that just shouldn't be happening, and just in general in life, not even about the NFL. If we're talking about, you know, how to make sure that women feel safe, which is obviously very prevalent right now, as it always should be. I think these conversations are obviously really, really important. Yeah, so thank you for really looking into that. It's really, really interesting, and yeah, kind of like we said, that we were kind of humming and hawing and couldn't decide whether or not we were gonna talk about this week, but also I think we all kind of agreed in the end that we couldn't not talk about it. It's too important, and I think it is our responsibility almost right now to kind of to bring it up and make each other aware, if anything, and have those kind of difficult conversations.
Yeah, I just want to add to it. I completely agree on your point. I think I do understand that obviously the NFL, a lot of people from the NFL come from sort of impoverished backgrounds, and then they're made to seem as like they're from high school to college, they're almost treated like gods among mortals, like they're paid the money of movie stars. But I also feel like this is the perfect chance for the NFL to go, like, I understand there's a big burden on players anyway, but they need to go, look, you have a burden, you are setting the precedent, set the precedent and be the ideal person. You're getting paid more than anyone else in the world for doing something that most of them, pretty much all of them love. And with that obviously comes a lot of responsibilities and a lot of stuff. So I feel this is the perfect chance for them to really go big and prove that they're not here to just lie about.
Yeah. I think, I said about precedent for young players, but I think the precedent goes out for young men and like kids everywhere. Like there was a survey recently which said athletes are role models for like 73% of people, or like behind their parents, athletes are the people they look up to most. So if you have a guy who is like this cultural icon doing this sort of thing, it sort of says to the athlete, to the kid, like, why can't I do that? And also like the fact that teams just reduce this sort of thing to character issues. It's like talking about Tyreek Hill, and it's like, he's a second round talent, but he fell to the 5th round because, character concerns. And it's like, that's not good enough. Like, full stop. Like, if you have a guy coming in, and even if, Tyreek Hill, when he I think he abused his girlfriend in college, which is a horrible, horrible story. If anyone, wants to look into it, but it is really disgusting. And then he comes in and these allegations happen again, and it's like, how do the Chiefs respond? They suspend him for a few games and they pay him $50 million, and it's like, how does this work? But yeah, I mean, I think we've said all we have to really say. But if anyone that's listening disagrees with what we have to say or thinks we've missed the mark with any of our points, like, please hit us up, tell us what you think, and let us correct it for the next time or for the future when we go on to talk about this sort of thing.
Yeah, thank you, Thorns. I think that kind of ties it up nicely, and I couldn't agree more. Like, the conversation isn't over when you listen to this and go, yeah, their opinions may be right or whatever. If you, kind of like Thornsy said, if you have an opinion on our opinion, help us learn, and we'll try our best to have that conversation with you, because that's what it's all about. But yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I think that was an important conversation, and I think it was really, really important to include. But with that being said, we could probably move on to some more lighthearted things now, more of the things that our listeners are accustomed to. And with that being said, over to you, Shaps, for the next segment.
Yeah, right. So for this segment, something that's never been done before by anyone, we're gonna talk about the best and the worst. The best and the worst, the most and the least improved teams from the first week of free agency. So, right, I've asked you all to pick one most improved and one least improved team. So I'm going to kick us off with going my most improved team, someone that no one's even noticed they've made any actions. They've been really under the radar, only signed 1 or 2 pieces. It's the New England Patriot, who, of course, have signed everyone and their grandmother to play for him for this upcoming season. I've written out a list of some of their acquisitions. Obviously, they acquired Trent Brown through trade, but that doesn't technically fit in with our free agency episode. But they re-signed Cam Newton for 13.5 mil in a very incentive-based deal, which I like. I like Cam Newton. And I think what part of the reason why he didn't succeed last year was he didn't have the weapons around him. And also he sort of slowed down after COVID. It sort of affected his rushing attack because once he has COVID, you saw Miles Garrett as well as some other players suffering for it. When you saw they had a lack of stamina, and obviously the breathlessness really affected them. And for a rushing QB, I say rushing QB lightly, like he's a thrower as well, but for someone who's as dynamic as Cam, to lose that sort of durability aspect in his lung capacity was bad. But I'm hoping he'll be back to his best next season. They got Matthew Judon in a deal that I really like. 4 years, 56 million. It's actually quite front loaded, which is interesting considering the trend of backloading deals in this. But yeah, I love that. Gives them a bit of edge pressure, something that they've really not had too much of. They've not really been blessed with too much edge threat in the last couple of years. So I like. Then they got the tight end duo, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. You got Jonnu Smith for 4 years, 50 mil, and Hunter Henry 3 years, 37 mil. Right, Jonnu Smith, he's more of the dual threat, he's a good blocker and he's a really good, reliable target. And I think he can sort of fill that almost, I say this very lightly, I'd like to specify Gronk role in the Belichick offense. He likes a tight end that can do a bit of both. Like Gronk was always, I think, in my opinion, underrated for his run blocking. I think he was always a great blocker on the line and stuff. And I think he's really going to help that. And then putting in those two tight end sets with Hunter Henry, who I think, unfortunately, I don't think the Chargers, it would have made sense for them to keep him, but he's a great talent and there's a lot of upside there, I think. So they're not breaking the bank for him. They're probably overpaid for both of these players, but I'd say if they can make it work, it's going to be worth it. And then they signed Nelson Aguilar just to add to their skill positions. 8 TDs, about 900 yards last year. 2 year, 26 mil. I think that's a great bit of business, adds an extra threat. Then they got Kendrick Bourne, another wide receiver threat, 3 years, 15 mil. He's a real quick receiver. He runs a nice free cone drill, which is something I know Belichick looks for. He likes a lot more quickness over speed sometimes. You look at how he's used like Edelman and that in the past. He really values that in receiver, so I think it'll be a good scheme fit there. They picked up some defensive players. Jalen Mills, he was only 26. I thought he was older than that. 4 year, 24 million. I think this is a bounce back year for him. Hasn't really played a full season the last couple of years, and he has been hampered with injuries a little bit. Played a bit of safety last year as well, or mainly safety. But I think he's due a bounce back year, Mill. So I think that was a really smart pickup. Then obviously they've got Dante Hightower back after sitting out last year. They were hoping to get Chung back as well, but obviously lost to retirement, which is a loss for them. But at the same time, they've at least got Hightower back now. And suddenly I look at this roster and I'm like, there's a lot of players there. They're 7-9. Like people joked, our Patriots were so bad last year. They're a 7-9 football team. That's what the Vegas Raiders dream to be. Just thought I'd have to throw a dig in there to Thornsey. But there's so much talent that they've added. And they had the 7th ranked scoring defense in the NFL last year. Most of their acquisitions have been offensive and a lot of weapons. I think we're going to see the best of Cam. He's got all this talent around him now. It's a 1 year deal as well with Cam, I'd like to add, when most of the others are multi-year deals. So if it doesn't work with Cam, they can bring everyone back next year, get rid of Cam and bring in a new QB. But I think it will work with Cam. I'm expecting a lot of bounce backs in this, like I said about Jalen Mills as well. There's a lot of good underrated acquisitions here, as well as some that have been a little bit overpaid for, considering the salary cap going down, but not going down, but obviously having less salary cap to work with than a lot of teams were hoping for. But at the same time, I don't think they've overpaid too massively for anyone. They were also rumoredly in the market for Leonard Fournette, who I think would play a great role in that offense, doing the sort of LeGarrette Blount dirty work that really helped the Patriots to one of their Super Bowls. Was it 2? Anyway, but they're my pick for most improved team. I hate to say it, but I think the Patriots are back. They obviously play in a great division, a lot of great teams in there. And I think it's going to be one of the funnest to watch in football. The AFC East next year is where it's at. Right. And without further ado, I'm going to see if you two have any comments on that. I assume not, considering it's the most boring pick. It's the equivalent of Thornsey saying that the 49ers will go worst to first.
That was a good pick, and you know it. The Patriots have really done. It's really unprecedented as well. Like to go out and sign people like this, we've never seen it before. And yet the tight ends are intriguing to see. Like Gronk always had that number 2 guy when he was there. Bringing Smith and Henry to like the top tight ends last year, so they're going to be very good together. I think Jalen Mills is going to be a really underrated pickup as well. Like he's got so much experience. Like he was one of the leaders on that Eagles defense when they went to the Super Bowl, and he's been in that winning environment. And Nelson Aguilar was a baller, straight up. Like I wish he stayed in Las Vegas, but obviously he's gone on to bigger things, and well, not bigger things because Raiders are going to win the Super Bowl, but bigger money things. So yeah, but I do like the pick, I have to say.
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, it is the easy pick. I can't remember if you said, because the list is like 4 years long for everyone that they've signed or re-signed, but I think Carl Van Noy is a really nice pickup.
Oh yeah, sorry, he's one I missed out.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was my attention span, but yeah, yeah, I think that's a really nice pickup. I think there's a lot of Dolphins fans that were hoping or didn't envision Carl Van Noy leaving, and I think I'm really gutted about that. The fact that they had to cut him, and I think Belichick notoriously gets the best out of his linebackers, and I mean he saved Van Noy's career. Everyone when Van Noy got traded from Detroit, everyone was like, that's a weird move. And then Carl Van Noy went on to play like all pro level football. So the Patriots, they're not back. I'm telling you that now, they're not back. But there's some nice moves there, I suppose. I like
wait and see.
I like the dual-headed tight ends, but that's about it. And Van Noy.
So Thornsey obviously brought up again Aguilar going from a bad system, a bad team. Just, he said obviously he didn't want to see him move. He didn't want to see him move from Las Vegas, but obviously he moved from a team that moves every other week. So I don't think he's really moving. He's probably finding a home. But that brings me on to the team I think had the worst free agency period. And I say worst sort of in an interesting way. I just don't think they've done enough. It's the Raiders. Now, obviously, they have made a couple big signings. They've got Drake, Carry on Drake, Yannick Ngakoue, and John Brown, who I think some great pickups. But they lost Hudson, they lost Jackson, and they lost Trent Brown. And they also, and you can't lose 3 starting O-linemen and not replace them. And they haven't. It's like they haven't replaced 3 starting O-linemen. And that's going to put Derek Carr under pressure. Derek Carr's a QB who performs in a clean pocket well. I think I've always rated Derek Carr, but I think he needs a clean pocket to play well. And all they've done is make his pocket very dirty. They've bought a running back and then given him not many pieces to run behind because they've got rid of most of them. And yeah, so like it's just the fact that they've not done enough for me. I think the Raiders are someone that they've been that team that's been on the cusp for a couple of years now. They've looked. I know obviously they were like, what was it, 4-12 2 years ago, and then I can't remember what their record was last year. But they've been trending upwards, and they've looked like a team that looks ready with a good off season, a team that could bounce into Super Bowl contention, maybe not Super Bowl, but maybe like to make a playoff run. And I think they've just put it all down the pan. You can't lose 3 trench players like that on the offensive side of the ball with a QB who needs a clean pocket and then just expect to keep performing and keep winning. So I think the Raiders have shot their rebuild in the foot. I say rebuild, but like shot themselves in the foot to really push and get that sort of playoff caliber, Super Bowl caliber squad. And I think they've taken 4 steps back and 1 forward with Drake and Ngakoue and Josh Brown. And I don't think it's enough. I'll ask Thornsey what he thinks of that as a Raiders fan.
Yeah, I agree. Sadly, I think Rodney Hudson was a bit of a shocker to get rid of him. Trent Brown just didn't look good this year. He missed a lot of games. When he did play, he didn't look like the guy that was due to be getting like 15 mil or whatever he was getting. And Gabe Jackson, I think, is a bit past it. So I think, I agree. I think they've had a bad offseason, but I think they just haven't done enough to make up for those losses. And Gakwe's a nice addition. They re-signed Nicholas Morrow. They've brought back some younger linemen. I like the idea of Jacobs and Drake as like a tag team, running back tandem, and Drake is like flexing out to play the slot role and the H-back and whatever. But I think Rodney Hudson is all pro caliber, and Trent Brown, I think, was on the cusp of Pro Bowl or All Pro a couple of years ago. I may have made that up completely. But yeah, if you're going to lose talent like that and not going to replace it with any sort of established guys, then you're going to get on Chaps' naughty list, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The Raiders have made some very questionable moves. I think that Rodney Hudson trade is really, really interesting because, kind of like you said, that he's still playing on all-pro level, and the trade is just one-sided as, like, I don't understand the logic there. One thing I do really like, and speaking to the guys at That American Football Show podcast, they really liked the pickup of John Brown, which I couldn't agree more with. I think that's a really nice pickup. I think John Brown, underrated receiver, who I think will do bits for the Raiders. I forgot what your team name was then. I got there in the end. I didn't realize that would be the hard bit of the show. For the Raiders, filling what Tyrell Williams was meant to be, hopefully. So that would be really, really nice. Yeah. Back to you in the studio, Shaps.
Yeah, just quickly on the back of that, John Brown's a guy that made his money being a speedster, being a field stretching talent. And I mean, that's exactly what Henry Ruggs is, hopefully going to do for the next 5 years or so. So that mentorship role and teaching Ruggs, I think that would be very interesting.
You can't throw deep if your QB is getting sacked after 2.5 seconds.
No comment.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, sorry. As I've just insulted and badgered your team, Thornsey, I'll let you go next.
Thank you. Well, not thank you, but thank you for the handoff. I was going to go for the Browns, but since you've been such a dick, I'm not. No, I'm joking. I was actually going to go for the Giants the whole time. Haha, what a good one. So, yeah, I've gone for the Giants. I think that when you have a young QB, you have to do everything you can to not protect them, but to give them the chance to succeed. And this offseason, O-line pending, they really have done that for Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley hopefully coming back from a torn ACL, picking up Carl Rudolph, obviously bringing in John Ross. Am I missing anyone? Obviously Kenny Golladay. 4 years, $72 million. That's a huge contract for one of the best receivers in the league when healthy. Yeah, loosely, but I think it kind of fits. And I think now you're looking at this Giants team as potentially having one of the best receiving corps in the league. And that's not, I don't think that's a wild take or something that's going to end up on, I don't think it's Daily Mail. That's what I'm trying to say. They've got two good tight ends, a trio of very talented receivers. John Ross, who, we've never seen him outside of Cincinnati, so he could come out and be a star like he was supposed to be when he was drafted. And on the O-line, the Giants have sort of admitted to being like, look, we're going to go young. We're not going to try and bring in vets or like these swing players. I think they've got Andrew Thomas, Will Hernandez, Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux, and Matt Pert. Wow. I can't remember their first names, so I've sort of guessed all of them. But I think it's interesting that they're committing to going young. I think the average age for the O-line is like 23 and a half or something, which is crazy young for the NFL. And that's a risk, but I kind of like it. I like the fact that they're saying, look, we've got these guys, we're going to go with them. We're not going to try and stunt their growth. And if they play bad, we're going to live and die with that. And then their secondary, you look at this team and they've got just for two top guys, James Bradbury and Logan Ryan, two elite cornerbacks straight away. There's rumors, very strong rumors, that they're going to try and sign Adoree Jackson in the next couple of days. And he's a guy that, I don't know if you guys have seen this stat, but he's the 4th ranked cover corner according to PFF over the last 3 years. behind only Richard Sherburn, Jay Alexander, and Stefan Gilmore. So he's good. Like he can play. And they've got young corners too: Sam Beal, Junior Love, Darnay Holmes, plus their D line. You know, bringing back Leonard Williams. I think that they've really done a lot to put themselves in. Maybe, I mean, we can say contention because it's the NFC East, but I think they've just built a very good foundation at the very least. And it's still picking at number 11 in the draft, where there's going to be a handful of good young edge rushers available who they can then pick up and add in. Or there's Clowney, Melvin Ingram, Alvin Smith, Carlos Dunlop, Justin Houston, all guys that could be looking for a chance to play on an up-and-coming team. And if I'm edge rusher, you know, I know so much about it because I did it once in a training session. This is the kind of place where you want to play. Like, you have two talented D linemen, Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, and you have a good secondary, which is going to give you time to get to the quarterback, and the QB is going to have that pressure in his face, so he's going to have to set deeper, which makes it even easier for you to go around and get to him. So I really like what the Giants have done. And so, yeah, the idea of building around Jones and building around a young QB sort of leads me to the next point, which is the Eagles as my team that haven't done too well this free agency. And the key reason is because they haven't gone and built around Hurts as a starter. I mean, we spoke about Hurts and then the Eagles, like, episode 2, episode 3 with the Carson Wentz trade. And Jeffrey Lurie, the Eagles owner, came out and said, Hurts is the guy. We're going to do everything we can to build around him this offseason. I may be paraphrasing, but still. And what have they done? They've added Anthony Harris, a safety, and a couple D linemen. And it's like, if this is how you're going to treat your guy, if this is how you're going to go out and build your franchise around a player, like, what kind of message is that sending? Like, and yeah, I mean, their O-line is good. They've got Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, two of the better O-linemen in the league, when healthy, and they haven't really been healthy the last year or so. And the receiving core, Jalen Reagor, Greg Ward, Travis Fulgham, again, they're guys that are like good, like maybe maybe number 2, maybe number 3. They could all break out this year and prove me completely wrong, and that would be a travesty. But like, I just don't think they've done enough to really get like established stars and guys to come in and show Jalen Hurts, like, look, we're here for you. We're going to go and build around you and shore up the team so that we can win with you at the helm. And I think looking at the roster right now, there's a good chance that we're going to come here and be not sat here because I don't know about you guys, but I won't have this house next year. But we'll be sat here and talking about how Hurts has struggled in his first year as a starter. And I think it's because they haven't built around him. They haven't given him the chance to succeed. So yeah, and just quickly, re-signing Brandon Graham, I like it. I think he's a great talent, and they didn't really have the salary cap to go and get guys, but I think really with the way that NFL accountants can move money around, that's not really an excuse that can be used.
Yeah, you pretty much just stole my point right at the death. There was that the Eagles are almost in the situation where they couldn't do much because they don't have the cap, but also then you could argue that by the sounds of things, they're doing something wrong because the Bucs made it work and brought back pretty much an entire Super Bowl winning team. They just made it work, and the Chiefs doing the same. The Saints are slowly but surely figuring it out. So what are the Eagles not doing that everybody else is doing? So I think you're absolutely right. I think they've improved the least because they look like they're almost not putting in. It almost feels like it doesn't mean as much to them, or they don't, or they say they're believing in the Hurts hype, but they don't fully believe it. Whereas, like I said, teams like the Bucs, they've got the evidence to back it up from the Super Bowl that they've just won, but they believe that that's a Super Bowl winning team, and that group of guys needs to be together. So they made the effort to work things round, and now that team is back together for another few years.
Yeah.
You know what I think the big issue there is I think the Eagles front office is clearly listening to the podcast, and they heard my worst to first analysis of them, and they thought, yeah, you know what, we can go worst to first, but they've sat on their laurels, they've messed about, and you know what, I'm gonna reject my take from a couple episodes back. It's only taken 2 weeks, and I'm already completely rejecting my take because Yeah, you've got Washington's become better. So I don't want to go off topic, but Washington's become better. The other teams and divisions have become better, and I think the Eagles have done nothing. It's the same case, and then taking it back to your better pick, the New York Giants. I think I completely agree. I do like the move of building a young O line. If it does piece together, then they've got a cheap O line, and to get a cheap and good O line is very rare in the NFL, and that sort of gives you that cap room to spend elsewhere. And I also agree with what you've both said about the free agency. About free agency is you can move money about, so there's no excuse for not making signings.
Yeah, I actually was thinking when I chose the Eagles, I need to listen back to the podcast where you spoke about them, but I completely forgot. So if I've missed anything, just hit me up on Twitter at EdChaplin34, and yeah, I'll get back to you.
I don't have Twitter.
Also, talking about Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones, I think I said this last week, but Move the Sticks, the NFL podcast, talk about trucks and trailers, QBs that are like guys to build around and QBs that need to be built around. I hope that distinguished as well as I thought it was good in my head. Anyway, you have guys that can lead the franchise, guys that need to get pulled, trucks, trailers. Listen to them. It's a brilliant podcast. And that's an unpaid promo. You're welcome. But I think, when you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, when he's this young, you need to sort of build around him, and the Eagles haven't really done that, haven't given him the conditions to succeed. Dan, over to you.
Nice one. Thank you very much. I'm not going to waste too much of your time here. For my most improved, I really like what the Buffalo Bills have done. As a team that's not too far away, I think they've, and obviously they made it, they were pretty close to getting to the Super Bowl last year, a couple of games away. I think they've done quite nicely. They've gone for a quite similar approach to the Bucks in that they want to bring back a lot of the guys that helped them get there. So Matt Milano's back, guys on the offensive line, John Feliciano, Darrell Williams. Nice moves that I think are really, really important to keep those kind of main pieces and not to almost, you've got this far, don't then sort of throw everything away and get a whole new setup in. I think it's really, really nice that they've brought those couple of pieces back, but also a couple of new acquisitions that I think have slid under the radar. I've talked about it right at the beginning, but Emmanuel Sanders, I think, is essentially a big upgrade on, maybe not a big upgrade, that might be unfair because I, sang John Brown's praises throughout the podcast, but I think Sanders is still an upgrade on John Brown, who helped hold that Saints offense together last year, along with Kamara, who obviously had a fantastic season. But Sanders kept the receiving core going when Michael Thomas was doing whatever he was doing. And yeah, I think that's a really nice move and made that offense even more exciting and provides another option. And I think something that needs to be said that is not talked about enough is the signing of Mitch Trubisky. Now, exactly. Shaps, you're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Thornsy, you nodded, so you're clearly right.
Vegas re-signed Nathan Peterman. You didn't see me bringing up a relevant QB.
You'll be surprised. I think backup QB is a really important position and something that isn't talked about enough in the NFL. And Carson Wentz and Nick Foles are the perfect example of this. Josh Allen this season, near MVP season. Yeah, fantastic. Carson Wentz, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, near MVP season, had he not got injured. If he doesn't have the reliable backup in Nick Foles, they don't win the Super Bowl that year. Mitch Trubisky is on a 1 year, and I believe it's like a 2.5 mil. Nothing in the NFL in terms of like backup QB. Tyrod Taylor's on like 12 mil for the Texans. So like put that in comparison. And Trubisky has his moments. Trubisky's reliable enough. Yeah. He led I see. Didn't maybe play he played inconsistent football in Chicago, but I think I really, really like that signing. And, call me crazy, whatever you want. We're here to, give you our takes. And I really, really like that move. So I really, really like just the quiet, simple, plodding along moves that the Bills have done. I think that's really, really good. Bringing back the pieces, but also adding some new exciting things along the way. The team that I think have least improved, and I think least improved might be wrong, but I've gone for this more as I just don't like the moves that they've done. I've gone for the Kansas City Chiefs on the basis that I just don't like what they've done with the O-line. I'll be honest. Mitchell Schwartz has obviously been getting on a bit, and there's potential talks of him retiring. So I do get it. And Eric Fisher on the other side, I think it was a really big deal when they both got cut. It was almost like, it felt like because they both didn't turn up for the Super Bowl, that they were getting punished for it. Is literally what it felt like when I saw those cuts. Now, don't get me wrong, the Chiefs have added Joe Thuney, whatever you want to call him, Joe Thuney, and have picked up Kyle Long out of retirement. Kyle Long's been retired a year. Okay. So he knew that he wanted to retire. And don't get me wrong, obviously Gronk's come back this year after retiring for a year and played an incredible season. But Gronk is Gronk. Gronk's an unbelievable talent that is an offensive skill. He's a skill position player. No, in reality, we knew was going to have, realistically an all right season. Kyle Long's a year removed. I don't know. I'm not sold on that idea. I think he's going to be, he'll play, but is he an upgrade? Not in my opinion. Joe Thuney, I think has been a reliable O-lineman on a Patriots O-line they just seem to make it work with whatever O-line they have. And I think that's almost the mystique of the Patriots O-line, is that when they do hit free agency, is they get paid because they've always played, other than, the season just gone, always played on a winning team. So guys like Nate Solder, who have hit free agency and just got paid because they've played on a winning team and have, done reasonably well. I think the mystique of that Patriots O-line has happened again here. I don't think he'll be as good as they think he is. I think he's got overpaid massively. Don't get me wrong, it's important to have an O-line, but yeah, not for me. And Austin Rita, who I think is quite a nice, reliable player, is still a free agent, which surprised me. So yeah, I just don't like the offensive line moves with the Chiefs, and that's why I picked them, because they're in my division and I want to slam them as much as possible. And yeah, so attack the tackle positions, because there's going to be two completely new guards there. And you'd think with how the Super Bowl went that they'd be really keen to bring back Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, because that was the area of need in the Super Bowl. And essentially, at the end of the day, that's potentially what cost them. But they've thrown them away. And, it's going to be two young guys or two journeyman tackles. So that's why I don't like it. I think they have needed to do more to make that O-line better to get them back to the Super Bowl.
Right. Look, I hate the idea that you need a veteran QB or an established QB too. I just don't see the point. The Bills already have Jake Fromm, who I think was a great little understudy for Josh Allen. And now they've basically gone to Jake Fromm. Oh yeah, we're done with you. Go now. We brought in Mitch, you QB free. You're just sitting there to be cut in a year or two's time. That's what it feels like. This move feels like to me. You talk about the Nick Foles move and how he helped Philly win a Super Bowl. Yes, he was a backup QB that won a Super Bowl, but that's not a precedent. That's not something that happens often. Most times what happens is your starting QB goes down injured, and you see that, yeah, unfortunately, unlucky, luck of the jaw, you restart and try a new season. Doesn't matter how good your backup is. 99% of the time, if your starting QB goes down injured, that's your season. So you might as well accept that. If my starting QB goes down and I know I'm not going to win a Super Bowl, which it is the case. I'm sorry, I don't care about what Foles did. It is the case. And I know I'm not going to win a Super Bowl. I'd rather have a bad QB lose some more games, get a better draft pick, and just be like, well, we'll get them next year when we've got our starter back. I understand Mitch is only 2.5 mil, but like I said, you don't want to harm the development of Jake Fromm, who I thought was a really smart draft pick by the Bills. I thought he slid way further than he should have. I think he's a good player, and I watched QB1 Under the Lights. I'm not sure if either of you have seen it, but it's a great thing that watches the number one high school QBs, like some of the best high school QBs as they go around. And Jake Fromm was on it as a high school QB, being filmed for a year. I think he was on the same year as Tate Martell. So having the two polar opposites there was really interesting, because you could just see how it really highlighted how good Jake Fromm's character is. And I don't see why you'd bring in Mitch Trubisky. There's just no point. And I think the move just adds confusion. And I don't think it elevates anyone's game. So yeah, that's my take on that. And yeah, I just don't agree with the move of picking up a random veteran QB when you already have Jake Fromm.
Yeah, do you know what, you raised some good points. I think forgetting that Jake Fromm was in the QB room. I know a lot of hype or draft hype from this time last year was Jake Fromm was the heir apparent or the potential heir apparent to Tom Brady in New England. It was a lot of drafts, mock drafts that I saw with him going to New England. So you raise a good point. But I also disagree with the fact that you kind of say Nick Foles is the exception, in the sense that backup QBs obviously play vital roles within those circumstances where, like, for example, this season where, sorry, because I think it was against the Browns, so I feel guilty. But when Mahomes goes down, if they don't have a reliable backup that solved that problem in the situation, then they don't make the Super Bowl. Do you know what I mean?
Reliable backup. He threw one of the worst interceptions I think I've ever seen in my life.
But he made the game-winning play. So, like,
I could have made the game-winning play.
Okay.
I've seen you throw. You definitely could not make that play.
You can't even dodge a corner 30 yards down the field when Thornsy's blocked him out of bounds.
Oh, the day I see Thornsy block someone out of bounds is the day. I don't even. It's the day the New York Jets sign. I don't know.
I've been blocked out of bounds before. I've never blocked anyone out.
Anyway,
lots of fun. It was really painful and embarrassing on top of that.
I can't wait for our listeners to hear about.
Yeah, well, I'll just have to say a swear word so it gets cut.
Your takes on my takes.
I think it's interesting to have two teams that are like they're competing against each other at the end of the season. You know, obviously NFCs play each other throughout the year, and Raiders and the Pats aren't relevant to this point. Oh god.
Well, according to Shaps, one's going to the AFC Championship game, and one's getting the number 1 overall pick this time next year. So
yeah. So anyway, it's interesting to have two teams that are so like reach the same point of the season last year, and yeah, I agree. I think the Bills, they didn't need a knee-jerk reaction. I think it would have been easy to turn around and say, what can we do this offseason to go and beat the Chiefs? Like, how can we need to throw the bank at JJ Watt. We need to go all in to get Trent Williams, or we need to go and spend loads of money to upgrade our... What do they need to upgrade? Like cornerback, safeties, I don't know, something that would help. I was kind of sad, though, by the Emmanuel Sanders pickup. I think it is obviously a good pickup, but I was quite excited to see Gabriel Davis and see what he could do in a bigger role. You know, he played really well in the playoff game, and I'm excited to see that. I think Mitch Trubisky he's going to be one of them facts where it's like, who was taken before Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 NFL draft? And everyone's going to be Trubisky? But, you know, he almost won a playoff game. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the double doink in Chicago, and he didn't just lean on his defense to get there. He played a pretty awful game, but he put together this clutch game-winning drive to get them down in field goal range. just for the kicker, Cody Parkey.
Yeah, Cody Parkey now of the Browns, just been re-signed. I was going to say, just while you bring that up, he was also a Pro Bowler that year. Just if you want another statistical anomaly, that word.
Thanks. Yeah, and even then, like me, the one person, watched the Pro Bowl highlights from a couple of years ago, and it's like Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson, I think Drew Brees, and then Mitch Trubisky, and it's like all these highlights of like Mahomes doing these no-look passes and Wilson leading the team and being in control in the huddle, and it's Trubisky throwing, I think, back-to-back interceptions or back-to-back drives. So he's kind of just becoming a meme. But I don't know if I agree or don't agree, because I don't really think he's like one of their key pickups this offseason. But I do think I am sort of in the middle of you two in that I don't agree with Shaps, and I do think backup QBs are important, but I don't really think you can look at Trubisky and say, this is the guy that's like been one of their top guys. But still, I get your point. And also, when you're talking about Patriots O-lineman, that was what happened with Trent Brown, I think. He played for the Patriots for a season, and that led the Raiders to give him like $15 million a year afterwards. And now he's back at the Patriots on however much money. And I think the Chiefs O-line is similar to the Raiders and what Shap spoke about in the they didn't necessarily want to get rid of Schwartz and Fisher, but I think these are two guys that are dealing with potentially long-term, very difficult to recover from injuries, and the Chiefs don't want to be sort of waste a year of Mahomes in his prime waiting for these two guys to get healthy. They'd rather get the money off their books and go and sign guys like Tooney and make a run at Trent Williams and make a run at Juju Smith-Schuster. And so I kind of get where they're coming from, but again, I think that after getting rid of two guys of that caliber, they haven't done enough to make up for that loss in the same way that the Raiders did. But ultimately, I think they're two very intriguing picks, and also hopefully we'll see them in the playoffs this year, so we can see how it plays out in the long run.
Yeah, thank you, boys. Cool. Right, those are our picks for most and least improved teams through first few weeks of free agency. Over to you, Thornito.
Right, now to the fun bit of the show, where
I thought my section was lovely.
Look, I didn't talk when you did your introduction, so I'd appreciate you not talking for my introduction.
Yeah, Shaps, to be fair, sorry, Thorns. He did describe his bit as fun. If yours can be lovely, but his can be fun. Anyway, back to you, Thorns. I promise it won't happen again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now to the fun bit of the show. You know, we have two teachers in here, me included, and Shaps is a coach, so there's three of us really. And we're just, here to educate and teach you about the free agents that have been available. So we're going to do a little bit of a quiz. And it's same as last week where you pick a player and we're going to give you some facts and some stats and some maybe a little anecdote if you have one. And from that, the other two of us are going to try and guess who the player they are describing is. You're free to play along at home, but there's no prizes, so there's no point really. But you can keep score yourself, and if you're lucky, get a pat on the back. Anyway, so we're going to go with Shaq Barrett again as an example. Say the same facts we had last week. Undrafted in 2014, 27.5 sacks, QB hits, QB pressures, Pro Bowls, All Pro, blah, blah, blah. This player with these stats, obviously not meant to know his name, but it's an example, so give me a break. Signed a 4-year, $68 million deal with $36 million guaranteed. And then you say, who is it? And everyone goes, Shaq Barrett, you said at the start, you plonker. So yeah, the gist of the game is it's the same as last week, except this week we know where they went, we know what contract they got, and we're going to sort of discuss them in that light. So I'm going to go first, Shaq second, down third. So my player, he was drafted in the 4th round in 2017. I'm not going to say the team because it might be a big clue. The team that drafted him, obviously. Last season, he played 15 games, made 83 tackles, had 1 sack, 4 pass defenses, 2 interceptions, and this came off the back of 3 interceptions in 2019. He's a safety,
And the contract he got this year is 4 years, $35 million with 16 mil guaranteed and a potential to go up to 40 million with incentives. Can you guess who it is?
How many years? Sorry, 4.
Yeah.
4 years, and he's a safety. Oh, I don't want to guess it too early, so I might keep my guess to myself if that's cool.
Yeah.
I think I may have it, but I might be wrong.
I'm not that sure, if I'm being completely honest.
Right.
So, what did you say? 2014?
2017.
2017. Okay.
Yeah.
He
was drafted by the Chargers.
Drafted by the Chargers. Okay.
Yeah, I have got this, and I'm not going to say just yet. But this is a guy that kind of slides or has slid under the radar last few years and has had to kind of work his way up based off of Derwin James being injured.
The only other safety I know from the Chargers I didn't think was going to free agency, so this could just be me being stupid. It's something like Jenkins or something, isn't it?
Yeah, Rayshawn Jenkins.
I don't have a clue. All I know is that he's a safety for the Chargers. I couldn't tell you anything else. I thought he was still on the Chargers, if I'm being honest, which means I'm not.
Yeah, so Rayshawn Jenkins. And like you, I didn't really know who he was. Like, I thought maybe a special team or that sort of thing. But yeah, and he stuck out for like I think he signed really quickly as well. Like, he was one of the big names, like first names to go on like a big, like almost 10 million a year for a safety. That's huge. That's huge money. And yeah, unheralded. And I think, you know, we like throwing it back to old episodes, and we're back when we spoke about building a team. And for me, one of the important bits was a safety, a good safety. And, you know, Urban Meyer and the Jags have obviously gone out and tried to do that with Jenkins. So, you know, I'm excited to see how he does. And 4 years is a long time to sort of build himself up and be a leader on a defense that really needed one. Shaps, over to you.
Okay, yeah. So my pick is a defensive player. They signed a 3-year deal. They're someone who I think their primary purpose that they've been brought in for is to help with the run. They have 350 career combined tackles, and they are an ex-third round pick. Now, I'm assuming you guys might be getting where I'm going. In 2017 also. Okay, yeah, they're fast all over the field. They have got very good coverage skills as well, I should mention. Very good coverage skills, fast all over the field. And they have joined a team to play in the same unit as this player and somebody else from the old unit have both joined this new team in free agency.
What position are they?
I can't give it away. 3-year, 33.75 million, averaging about 11.25 a year.
It's not John Johnson, is it?
It is indeed. I couldn't go a whole episode without mentioning the Browns. Yeah, so 3-year, 33.75 million, 11.25 a year, 350 career tackles, 8 interceptions, 1 forced fumble. His last 2 seasons where he was healthy, he had over 100 combined tackles in each of them. He's got forced fumble before. I think he's fast. I think he's going to be a great mentor for Grant Delpit. But yeah, I think I just basically wanted to put this in so I could talk about the Browns. And I think for Delpit as well, to come into a secondary where he's got 3 established veterans in Denzel Ward, Troy Hill, and John Johnson. Obviously, he spent the whole of last year in the meetings with the Browns, watching film with the Browns. Or at least I hope he has. But yeah, so he should be able to jump in, be in a very experienced secondary. I say very, but like none of them are that old. They're still young, but a young secondary that has all played in the NFL for a little bit of time. And then you've also got Greedy Williams. He's another defensive player who can I'm really hoping he can come back from his injury and start making plays again. Well, I say plays again, like he never really got a chance to get his career kick started, but he's someone who I think if he can get his injury issues sorted, or had a lot of upside, and I'd like to see him play again. And I think for two players like Greedy and like Delpit, this is the perfect move for them. Also shores up the weakness of the Browns team. And I think bringing in Hill and Johnson makes the secondary from a weakness to a strength. And it just leaves the linebacking core and another edge rusher to go along Myles Garrett. And I think the Browns are ready to rock and roll. So yeah, that's my take. Quite kind of a boring one. Sorry to go back-to-back safeties, but I think it is a bit of an undervalued position nowadays. Like, you look at what people like Ed Reed have done in the past, and like they are big. You can have splash players at safety that I think don't get the respect they deserve, and the safety position doesn't get paid that much. I think it is the lowest valued franchise tag, because we were talking about that when you were talking about potentially franchise tagging John Johnson. And the other thing that I should mention as well is he was a captain. He was a captain and a leader of that defense. He was sort of one of the, I know it's a cliche, but one of the quarterbacks of the defense. And you can't get enough people like that in a room. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. I think the leadership is something that you don't really see in the stats as well. So obviously that's a good point to bring up. And yeah, John Johnson has been one of the best players on one of the best defenses for the past 2-3 years. So infinite value times 100. Cool. Dan, you're up.
Cool. And I think this worked out quite nicely because I've actually gone offense with my guess the player. So this player was taken in the second round. I'm not going to give you the year just yet. They have played in 131 career games with 8,484 yards receiving and 86 total touchdowns. They have recently signed for their team on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Any guesses so far?
I think I might have it. Mm-hmm. Can I go straight in with it?
I would say you can, but try and...
Has he had injury troubles in the last couple years?
Yeah, I would say so.
Has he not been really at his best? He's had a few off years.
No, I wouldn't say so, actually. In
which case, I think I'm off kilter. I was going to go with AJ Green.
No, it wasn't AJ Green. That's a good guess, though, but I might be wrong. I think AJ Green may have gone in the first. I could be wrong. But yeah, this player kind of ties in nicely then to my next few points. This player arguably had one of their better seasons, maybe not in terms of stats, but in terms of how they played this year. I think they were very well received, very clutch. In their most dominant season, this person caught 17 touchdowns. They have played a total of 20 career postseason games where they have over 1,000 yards in those games altogether, including 14 postseason receiving touchdowns. It's Rob Gronkowski.
You had me thinking receiver, you cheeky devil.
Yeah.
So I did play the system there a little bit, and I knew you'd be thinking receiver. I also cheated the system a little bit because Rob Gronkowski has obviously re-signed with the team that let him hit free agency. And I mean, I don't think it was ever a doubt that he would be back in Tampa, but I also think it's a key signing. I think the Brady Gronk connection is something that has been vital to their success over the years. And it's obviously something that Belichick is now trying to recreate with the two-headed monster that is Johnny Smith and Hunter Henry. I don't know if I can call it that yet. But I think 10 mil for a guy that statistically may not have played his best football, but I also think they were a bit wary at the start of the season about playing him too much, considering he's been a year removed from football. I think only grew as the season
He
went
was
on.
he was 100% just unfit at the start of the year.
Oh yeah, he was just getting back into the swing of things, and I think by the end, the stats read that they, if you look back in 10, 15 years, you go, oh, Gronk came back just to do that. But you think he had 7 touchdowns this season, and was vital, I think, to providing another weapon in that offense. So I think, I think 10 mil. I mean, it may be a bit steep for a tight end reaching there. But do you know what? One of those things, I think, because he retired last year. Well, yeah, the season before, sorry. You forget that he's 31. It feels like he's about 38. For anyone that's listening and really wants to know and can't be bothered to do it was 2010 he was drafted in. Just for the sake of clarity. But yeah, it feels like he's way older than he is. So, 10 mil for arguably the top receiver on your team. I know that is arguably because there are some very strong candidates.
Top third down receiver, I'd say.
Yeah,
would be a better way of phrasing it.
And yeah, obviously you touched upon that weeks ago when we were talking about our most important positions on the field. Who you going to on third down on the what's called the money down. Gronk's the guy you're looking at all day, every day. So yeah, I think that's a key signing.
Yeah. And just to add on, talking about Gronk being younger than you think, like going way back, feels like ages ago to the start of the show, talk about Trent Williams. And Trent Williams sat out like a year and a half when he was playing for Washington. And that, like, obviously those years you sort of can add on to the end of a guy's, let's say, lifespan, career span is probably a better word. But yeah, you sort of add on to the end of it. So Gronk missing a season is like he's 31 and he has that year of rehab and getting healthy, and you can sort of add that to where he's going to go from here. And obviously, he was the guy in the Super Bowl. He get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he definitely needed the year off, I think, as well, because you just have to look at his injury history in his last few years as a Patriot. Because the way he plays is so physical, so aggressive, so frat boy, and that's why everyone loves him, because that's how he plays. Is he just doesn't care about his body. But obviously, that took its toll, and I think a year off has done in the world of good. He took his year off a bit too. He lost a lot of weight, slimmed down quite a lot. Messed about a bit with rest. I say messed about. He did what he wanted, which is all you can hope for him. But yeah, he did his wrestling and stuff, had fun, partied, and then faked workout videos or whatever he did in the off season, which might have been part of why he was unfit. But he came back, got his fitness back, and became a sneaky fantasy pick for late in the season. Nice pickup when people had cut him when he was unproductive at the start. But yeah, I think he was great. He was great. And he's part of the reason they got a Super Bowl last year. So can't argue with that. I think 10 mil is a bit on the expensive side, but you look at like the Browns are, he's talking about the Browns again, but the Browns are paying Austin Hooper more than that. Hunter Henry's getting paid more than that. It's let me check my notes from the previous section. Jonnu Smith's getting paid more than that. Like, there's so many people who are getting paid more than that. Like, he's a bargain compared to, I know, like, who would you rather have right now? Would you rather have Gronkowski or Austin Hooper? You'd rather have Gronk because he's a proven winner and he will come up clutch. So yeah, that's me just piggybacking on your point to death. And that's, I think, all we got. But I'll quickly, before obviously you do the roundup, I do want to throw a couple things in. So I know you've been thinking, oh no, did he forget to tell me who the mystery player was from last week? No, I did not. So the mystery player whose stats I read out were it was, any guesses? I think you both guessed it straight after the show. I think I gave one too many clues away in the end. So I'll let one of you say, who was it?
Justin Gilbert.
Correct. No, it's Jamal Charles. One of the great running backs of the NFL in recent time. But I decided, you know what, it's a little bit fun to leave you with like a little tidbit to think on for next week. So I'm going to do it again. So recently, I was looking into and watching some stuff on free agency and that, just because it's what I do with my life, which is why I don't have fun stories like Thornsey. But yeah, so who was the first unrestricted free agent signing of all time? Spoiler alert, it might be more recent than you think. But yeah, the first ever unrestricted free agent of all time was who? And that's one I'll answer next week.
Perfect. Thanks, Chaps. Lovely. And kind of going back a couple of points, but I think it's quite nice to kind of finish off the episode today. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we talked about how Gronk needed that year off, and we can almost add that onto his career span. It'll be interesting now with the guys going forward to the draft, because obviously next week we move forward to mock draft 2.0, which I cannot wait for. It'll be interesting to see the guys that have opted out this year from college play, how they adapt to the NFL, and the guys that graded so highly last year in college, Greg Rousseau, who didn't play, and these other guys. Sorry, Greg Rousseau was just the first one that came to my head. These other guys that just didn't play, Penny Sewell, there you go, there's another one. My brain caught up with my point. How they adjust having not played football for a year. Is a year in the gym with these young guys that, the bodies getting their bodies to where they want them to be for the NFL. It'd be interesting to see whether that's helped or hindered them. But thank you, boys. Thank you for lots of fantastic talking points today. I think we've really covered a lot of nice, lighthearted football talk, but also some real life talk as well that I think was really, really important for us to cover. And I look forward to the mock draft next week and a special guest joining us on the show. So that'll be fun. So without saying too much more, nice one, Thorns. Have a good week, mate.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening. It's been a whale of a time. It's been a whale of a wash.
Oh, Shark Tale, what a film. Nice one. It's nice of you to show some energy, Thorns. Right, Shaps, nice one, mate. Have a good week.
Thank you very much. I hope I have a more exciting week, so I finally have something to say.
It'll be nice when I say how are you, for you to actually respond. But yeah, nice one, boys. Have a good week, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, all. Much love. Touchdown!